I've been waiting for this game for a long time. A building game where you can play as a Cthulhu cultist bent on doing crazy cult stuff. Whether you're spicing up your followers to become fanatics, making some corn, or sacrificing non believers, worshippers of Cthulhu will deliver. Welcome back to Society Case Files. This is Robert coming to you with a first impression of worshippers of Cthulhu. If you like this kind of content, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive right in. Worshippers of Cthulhu is a game where you build a city populated by cultists. Your objective is to eventually raise the old god, but along the way, you have to manage your people, give them work, and keep them thriving and zealous in order to achieve your goals. I thought it was coming out as a full release this month, but instead we've got early access. But that doesn't mean it's not really solid. While there are a few confusing aspects, I think they'll iron them out pretty fast, and a couple of points that are on the verge of annoying, but overall, I call this game a major winner, and I've absolutely loved it so far. When I first started the game, I thought it was going to be relatively complicated, but it proved elegantly simple. Management of the various aspects of the cult proved easy enough to grasp, and the obstacles mostly came down to knowing where the devs put certain icons, specific buildings in the tech tree, that kind of thing. I suspect the tutorial is going to get published over time and probably be a lot better for getting into the game at the beginning. Though right now it's suitable to get rolling, and once you get into the rhythm, it's smooth sailing. Your primary currency is faith. Upkeep of your buildings and people come from that while you feed it with a faith income. Meeting the needs of your people generates more. Things like food, clothes, and community give you additional faith, which you can then spend on other stuff. When you build anything or conduct a ritual, you tap into that currency. And at the beginning, you start with quite a lot, but you're in a deficit as you try to build your followers up fast enough to ensure you're getting more than you're spending before it all runs out. Once you manage that, it's a matter of maintaining things while achieving various objectives that pop up over time. The tutorial takes you through your first offering to the dark god, summoning a horror, and eventually attacking a neighboring island. And that's kind of where things take a turn for the slightly hectic as you start managing a second settlement. But there is a pause button, so it's not as stressful as it could be. All along the way, you have these little events that pop up where you can make decisions that will impact the cult. Anything from deciding what to do with captured prisoners to blessing a newborn with a weird mark. And there's just tons of opportunities to exercise your weirdness. And speaking of that, there's a pretty creepy mini game where you can change your character's professional goals through, let's just say altering them. You have a book with suggestions and an open canvas to get it done, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you get there. Suffice to say, it's actually pretty unhinged. You unlock additional structures through favor. This is acquired through sacrifice, mostly carvings at the beginning. When you get those dealt with, you can then decide what you want to be able to build, whether it's a specific kind of farm or some other resource gathering tool or another altar, whatever. You got plenty of options. There's a pretty reasonable tech tree. The graphics are great. They really create the proper mood for the activities. And there's this sense that you might be in a fantasy world, but it could also be just some forgotten corner of reality where a bunch of nutty cultists have gathered to cause trouble. And all this said, and make no mistake, I love this game. There are a few things that are puzzling. One example is when you break things down in the game world, you can get resources. They're basically like the remnants of the society that came before you. And when you click on them, there's a little timer that shows that someone's, turning it into wood or whatever. And you can't queue them up. So you have to wait for one to finish before clicking the next. And while there's not hundreds of them, it's kind of odd that you can't just queue up several and say, hey, knock out all those buildings one after another and then go on and, do something important. There aren't that many character models representing the different aspects of society yet. The same creepy lady pops up whether you click the sacrificial altar, the storage room, or the elder hall. They could add a little more diversity, I guess, but I mean, that's hardly a deal breaker. You're not really staring at them very much after you get going. There are some things I couldn't figure out too, such as when you're using the sacrificial altar to make a carving for the dark god, there appears to be a way to spend additional resources to get more, and I couldn't figure out how to get to the second level of it. There are arrows, but when you click them, it's for a completely different type of offering that has totally new resource requirements. And so maybe you have to research it, but I couldn't figure it out in this playthrough. Combat, such as it is, it's very simple. You basically summon up a monster and he has a few moves that he can do, and his health goes down because, you know, he's a summoned beast in the real world. And I guess that reality weighs on him more than it does me, which is probably a shock. But anyway, they might make it a little bit more robust, or maybe it is with higher level summonings. I didn't have enough resources to get something else, but that part is pretty cool because you pop up in the Necronomicon and it tells you everything you need, whether it's followers to sacrifice, a certain amount of blood, resources, that kind of thing. And then you can actually watch the ritual unfold on a big stone over the sea. And anyway, it's really cool. There's a lot to take in with this game, and I think it's a pretty accessible title, honestly. It doesn't have a massive learning curve to get into it. I think you can just jump right in and enjoy it. If you can get past just how awful your cult is and the kinds of things they do, you'll probably have a pretty good time. Know that even the quote-unquote nice choices in this game are still questionable at best. All around, even in early access, this game's something that I'll definitely recommend you pick up. It's one of the best times I've had with any game in several months. Anyway, that's it for today. Have you played Worshippers of Cthulhu? Do you plan to? And if so, did you like it? What's your favorite game like this? Have you tried that Cultist Simulator game? I probably need to talk about that at some point. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thanks very much for stopping by. And if you like this content, please subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Until next time, Cthulhu Fhtagn.